It's race 2 and day 2 here at Magny Cours. We're down in the pit lane here because the race starts as a rolling start today. Now, there was an exciting battle between Jeremy Lorenko and Xavier George yesterday. I'm sure that battle is going to commence in just a moment, so let me move out of the way and hand you straight to the action.
Well, the grid for the rolling start race is, of course, the same as one for the standing start, so it's Jeremy Lorenko on pole alongside him, Xavier George. Then we have got Gregory Rass and Christophe Lezondre on row 2. As the field filter their way through the very slow chicane that concludes the lap here at Magny Cours. As we get underway now, will we see a better start this time round from Lorenko, who powers his way into turn 1, takes the early advantage. Xavier George looks to try and move clear of Gregory Rass as the front group of cars all cleanly through. And there you have it, Lorenko from George and Rass as a little bit of a trip through the gravel trap for Max Alves. He should rejoin as we go in car with John Rass. Gets very, very close to Phil Capstick as they head through Estoril. As a result of that, Sven Pettersson able to just ease past John Rass. Meanwhile, Gregory Rass has an excellent run on Xavier George as they head on towards the Adelaide hairpin. Now that's a battle worth watching, as is the one right at the front of the production class, as Pettersson just clear of the yellow car of John Rass, and Gregory Rass, meanwhile, in the white Evora, able to move up into third place ahead of Xavier George. Now, will he be able to maintain that place for long? As we saw in race 1, George and the race leader, Jeremy Lorenko, broke well clear of the rest of the field. And this time they got a little bit of a spoiler in the pack in the form of Gregory Rass. This, however, is good news, you would suspect, for Jeremy Lorenko, because he will be looking, if he can, to build a little bit of a buffer in the early stages of the race. We go in car with Jean-Baptiste Luke, that's Nicholas Walker just ahead of him. He's on the brakes. You can see the challenge from Xavier George in second place, all over the tail of Gregory Rass, looking to make ground. The same in the fight for fourth. Nikolai Ibsen just ahead of Christophe Lezondre, but Lezondre again trying to exploit the performance of the 211 in the early stages. A bit of a ride over the curb there, soaring the wheel for Jeremy Lorenko as he comes through to end the first lap of the race. Really got this group all the way back to Jean-Pierre Genu-Prache, running more or less as that continuous train. It's been a reasonably good second half of the first lap as well for Gregory Rass. He closes up onto the tail of Lorenko, back in cut with Christophe Lezondre, who tries to close up on the tail of Nicolas Ibsen. There is Anthony Fournier. He's some way down. He's got Janos Santos behind him, and then the production class leader of John Rass. Frenetic pace being set in these early stages as the leading trio, as they did in race 1, easing away, but this time it's Ibsen who's gone fourth early on. You've seen Nicolas Ibsen on the podium more than once in Lotus Cup Europe. He could challenge as the race unfolds. Jean-Pierre Genu-Prache, meanwhile, coming under a little bit of pressure. And there is our production leader, John Rass, Sven Pettersson and Thierry Edouin, the next group of cars in pursuit. You can just see from the poise of Lorenko's V6 Kapar, he's trying to break away and break Gregory Rass's resistance. Rass, for the moment though, in the Evora, staying in touch. Then we've got this little bit of a gap back to the next group of cars, concluded by John Packer in the black 211. Packer just in pursuit of Thierry Verheest, as Lorenko not really breaking away at the moment. Xavier George, you get a sense, lurking with intent in the blue number 9 car for any chink of daylight that is left open by Gregory Rass, giving him the opportunity, if he possibly can, to find a way to slip through. Meanwhile, as ever, Philippe Loop looking to the inside of Christophe Lezondre, and Loop bounces through. Great move. Lezondre gave him plenty of space, however. May look to fight back Christophe Lezondre and mix into the chicane as they head towards the opening complex of turns. Gregory Rass in second place. And we've got this group of cars. That's a big moment there for Jean-Baptiste Luke. Oh, around he goes into the face of the traffic, and Thierry Verheest takes very effective evasive action And that's a huge moment for Jean-Baptiste Loup. He will have seen, if nothing else, his bank account flashing before his eyes then, because that car swapped ends very rapidly. Well, there is Max Alves, the bright orange car, recovering from his early indiscretion. Here's the replay of Jean-Baptiste Loup, the aptly named Aventure Racing, because that's exactly what that was, as he gathers up in a very cool, calm and collected way. Only lost a couple of places as a result of all of that. Meanwhile, Jean-Pierre Genius-Prachet has got Christophe Laroche just trying to close up onto his tail. Group of cars concluded by Nathalie Genius-Prachet. Genius-Prachet is shown so strongly at Dijon-Prenois. And the team in raid as Jean-Pierre Genius-Prachet makes the mistake, and that gives an opening to Christophe Laroche. Meanwhile, we return to the front of the field. No change in the order, but Jeremy Lorenko just that couple of tenths of a second further away from Gregory Rass. And then in third place, Xavier Georges sitting as ever behind Gregory Rass, but he can't yet find a way past him. Where is that opening going to come from? I think it's also going to be a case of whether or not Xavier Georges is prepared to back himself and maybe risk the car on the brakes in the Adelaide hairpin, because we saw earlier on there's plenty of traction from these Exige V6 cars. Meanwhile, in car John Rass, who continues to battle with Phil Capstick. Rass has a little bit of a seesaw at the wheel. Now the frustration here for Rass is that the production class Elise is going to be outgunned on the straights by Phil Capstick with regularity. But through the corners, you suspect John Rass is a little bit quicker. So there goes Phil Capstick. Reclaims the place for several metres. Rass, though, substantially faster through the turns. Looks to sell Capstick the dummy. Darts to the inside. So the place regained for John Rass. Now, he doesn't want to get involved in too much of a tussle here with Phil Capstick, because they are in different classes, as Capstick re-passes John Rass. Rass then on the brakes as Capstick just runs a little bit wide, and Rass should be able to ease past Phil Capstick here. Indeed he does, into the final chicane. So the Belgian driver reclaims the place from Capstick along the start and finish straight. Just wonder whether or not Capstick's going to have enough in the way of straight line speed to possibly power past Rass. He doesn't on that occasion, so the pair of them head on their way. Very impressive pace being set, by the way, in all the classes this weekend, because we've seen the lap records falling in both the V6 class, 211 class, the open class and the production class. It's testimony to the standards of driving and preparation of the cars in the Lotus Cup Europe. Still the fight for second place continues. Gregory Rass continues to have Xavier Georges attached to his rear spoiler. As we go back in car with John Rass, we say hello again once more to Phil Capstick. Well, John Rass can be as frustrated as he wants, but it's unfortunately the nature of racing. And it's the beauty of racing, in fact, where you've got different types of cars, is that Rass is always going to be quicker than Capstick through the corners, but just the nature of the car that Capstick is racing, he can't not apply his right foot on the brakes. So let's consult our mirrors. Which side will the black car appear on? This time it's the left-hand side. I don't think you need to be an expert in body language to understand that John Rass possibly a little bit frustrated with the way that his race is unfolding. Meanwhile, even more frustrated is going to be Christophe Laroche, whose car dies completely on him and then he fires it back up, gets underway. That looks a little bit more terminal, however, for Anthony Fournier, the 211 being wheeled into retirement. Here's Thierry Verheest. He has got John Packer tucked up onto his tail. A pair of them running just towards the bottom reaches of the top 10. Just riding the curb there. Verheest trying to break away from Packer, but we've seen a couple of times already this season, John Packer is a tenacious dicer, perhaps a bit more fond of the tricky conditions. Meanwhile, the leading trio, no change in the order still. Jeremy Lorenko from Gregory Rass and Xavier Georges. The problem for Xavier Georges now is that Gregory Rass is well aware that he's there, and it's whereabouts can George possibly cause a little bit of a surprise here for Gregory Rass and slip back past. Certainly not going to be through the final chicane, so the leaders head on to another lap. But as you can see, as Gregory Rass just defends a little bit more from Xavier Georges, that gives the opening to Jeremy Lorenko, which could potentially prove decisive by the time we get round to the checkered flag. So through Estoril, this leading group of cars well clear of the rest of the pack, as they have been throughout the course of the weekend. There's nothing but empty asphalt behind Xavier Georges as we wait for Nikolai Ibsen in fourth. Meanwhile, let's go back into the production class in car with Jason McAnulty. McAnulty having a good old wrestle with his wheel as he comes up onto the tail of Philip van Pevenegger. Van Pevenegger, though, able to drive a wide car when he wants to, keeps McAnulty behind him. This little trio of cars arrive towards the end of the lap. That's James Knight in the sky blue machine just ahead of them. As Jason McAnulty takes a big bite of curb, forces a little bit of a correction, another big bite of curb through the final chicane, a bit smoother on that occasion though from McAnulty. He might be able to make the move even along the start and finish straight, although I don't think he's quite got the straight line speed that he needs. So here is our race leader, as he has been since the start of the race, Jeremy Lorenko. We're going to take a short break, come back in a couple of minutes time. We'll see if Lorenko can do the double here in Magny Cours in the Lotus Cup Europe.